Well, our good buddy Ryan Day, currently standing at the intersection of a couple of street corners in Columbus, Ohio, shaking his can. He needs money. Ryan Day needs money. And you, Columbus, Ohio business owner, you need to give it to him. That's what he said yesterday at some sort of a meeting. He needs $13 million, he says, just to keep his current roster intact for next season. Not this coming season. They can't transfer now. Basically what he's saying is, there's been a lot of people talking about this lately. If you're a really good college football player and you're a freshman or a sophomore or whatever, why wouldn't you enter the transfer portal at the end of the year? Why wouldn't you? Go see how much money you can get, right? That's the idea here. So what Ryan Day is saying is that, I guess, after talking to his players and all this kind of stuff, he needs a total of $13 million to spread out amongst his 85 scholarship players in order to keep them all for next year. And I'm just wondering what everybody thinks about that. Now, I want to give Ryan Day some credit. I think there's a ton of issues with NIL. One of the issues is lack of transparency, right? We don't know who's making what, how much total is a team being paid, where's the money coming from, who's paying the money. You know, you have these NIL collectives, right? Which is great. It's within the rules right now. But, you know, how much money are they taking in? How much money are they paying out? Who's getting it? You know, contracts, like if you want to compare it to the NFL, contracts in the NFL aren't secret. I mean, you can look up right now how much your favorite NFL player makes. I mean, you know, the NFL has a salary cap, so you can't keep salaries a secret. That's an issue in college football right now because when there's no information, people are going to make up their own. That's where we get this $35 million Texas A&M story from. And I'm not saying it's not true, but because Texas A&M doesn't just come out and say, yes, we have an NIL collective, we raised $35 million, we used that in recruiting. Because they don't just come out and say that, people sort of have to fill in the gaps on their own, and that's where made-up information or unknown information comes from, right? The $8 million quarterback. Remember that story from a month or two ago? A lot of people think it's Nico, I can't wait to Taliva, or whatever his name is, the quarterback that Tennessee signed for next year's class. Apparently has already signed an $8 million deal. Now, we don't know that because even the person that wrote the article agreed not to disclose to player or school, and no player or school has come out and admitted it. So who knows if it's true or not. Let's give Ryan Day some credit. He's at least coming out and saying, look, I don't need $25 or $35 million. Based on the roster we have right now, if we want to keep all of our players from entering the portal next year, I need $13 million. That's what I need. Go out, and this was to a group of Columbus business owners, go out, raise $13 million. That's what we're going to need. You want to keep C.J. Stroud and Travion Henderson and these wide receivers and whatever defensive players that would be coming back next year. You want to keep all those guys? You want to keep them from entering the portal? I need $13 million to pay them. That's what it's going to take. At least he's coming out and saying it. I'm going to be honest with you. That seems like a bargain. That seems like a bargain to me. If you'd have told me that a top 5, top 10 roster in college football was worth $13 million, I'd have told you were crazy. I'd have told you to double or triple that, at least. So $13 million to me, in terms of, you know, what those players bring to the university, $13 million seems like a steal for a top 5 roster. And I don't care how much you hate Ohio State. Check the recruiting rankings or whatever you want to look at. Check their record. Check the final season rankings, whatever. They're a top 5 roster right now. They're a top 5 roster. $13 million, at least in my opinion, is a hell of a deal. A hell of a deal. If Ohio State's roster is worth $13 million, what do you think Georgia's roster is worth, or Bama's? Those 3 rosters are pretty close in terms of overall talent. Now, you can look and say this player is better than that player, but top to bottom, you look at the recruiting rankings, those rosters are pretty similar. I think Georgia's worth more than $13 million. I damn sure think Bama's worth more than $13 million. Ryan Day's getting a hell of a deal if it's only going to cost him $13 million to keep that team. Seems like a hell of a deal to me. What do you think Tennessee's worth? $25?